This is the plaintiff, Morgan. She says she purchased a car from the defendant, gave him 2/3 of the money and took the car. 2 weeks later, the car died. The defendant picked it up to take a look at it and said it was running fine. The defendant now refuses to return the car to her unless she pays off the balance. But that wasn't their deal, so she told him she wants her money back. The defendant refuses. He now has her car, her money, and they're at a standstill. She's suing for $1,530, the money she put down on the car. This is the defendant, William Crawford. He says this plaintiff is some piece of work. First, the car was in excellent condition and it started right up when she says she got stuck. Second, she was busted for DWI 2 weeks before she purchased the car. And 3, when he went to get it after she claimed she was stuck, there was dope in the glove box. He could have been busted. Bottom line, this woman's making all of this stuff up because she doesn't want to pay off the balance of the car, and he owes her $0. He's accused of unloading a lemon.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff bought a car from the defendant, gave him most of the money immediately, but the car died and he still won't make good on it. Now, the defendant says she was driving with drugs. It's the case of the car deal that went to pot.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome,
Okay, Morgan?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing William Crawford for $1,530 that you want returned to you, that you put down on a car, and he now has the car and the money. Tell me what happened.
Okay, it was around February 13th when I first, I was looking for a vehicle. I came across this ad on Craigslist. It stated that it was a 2004 Saturn Ion, very low miles, and they were willing to work with like prices and stuff like that. So I contacted his wife because I was obviously like very intrigued. So actually later that day, he came out to my house and showed me the car. That day I gave him a deposit of $1,200.
How did you pay the $1,200?
In cash.
Did you get a receipt?
I had a written agreement, but I had a copy. He as well had a copy, but later on when he actually got the car back, it was in the car when he took it back.
That's never a good idea.
And never.
Do you have the written agreement?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
May I have it?
Sure.
I'll take it. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
So it says the remaining $1,100 by February 20th. Did you ever pay any more money than the $1,200?
I did. I paid $330 on February 25th.
How did you pay that?
That was cash, and that was to his wife.
And do you have a receipt for that?
I don't have a receipt, but I do have text messages with the date and her saying that I gave her that money.
Can I see that?
Of course.
So according to you, you've paid $1,530, and then what happens? But you got the car without having paid for it?
Correct, yes.
And you had the car in your possession since when?
Total duration was February 13th until March 3rd.
During that time, the title is in whose name?
It was in Mr. Crawford's name.
Correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And who was paying for insurance?
I was, Your Honor.
Why were you doing that?
When I initially showed the car to Morgan, she told me that she didn't have plates, and she told me that her father had worked for Geico Insurance, and she said that she needed a couple days to put the car on her policy, and I agreed to let her use the plates for a couple days.
Why? If she has a car accident, you are responsible.
I know that, Your Honor.
Okay,
Yeah.
You do, because you're an ex-cop,
Yep.
right?
I was,
you're like with it. You're on this. Why
I'm-
would you let a complete stranger have a car in your name that she hasn't finished paying for?
She seemed trusting at the time.
How'd that work out?
It didn't work out very good at all.
I don't know why you would do that. That was a terrible idea. So she has the car, and then do you acknowledge getting a $330 payment on February 25th?
Your Honor, no, I don't.
Did your wife get the $330?
No, she told me no, and I asked her.
Are you with your wife?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yes.
in other words, okay.
Yeah.
Because you say you have text to prove that she got the $330.
Exactly.
If these are legitimate, then they seem to indicate that your wife got the $330.
I have to see it.
And you just changed your lawsuit today to say the $330 never happened, but before that you had acknowledged it. So what changed?
I had no idea that they had that much interaction. All through the texting, there was like different figures everywhere. I said, "What are the figures?" I said, "Did she give you any money?" You know, I saw like time and time again where there was a promise to give her money, or we'll meet, or I'll pay you this, or I can't pay this.
But your wife knows if she took $330 from her. This isn't something a person forgets.
She said she didn't, and I said, did you? And I said, is there a receipt? And she said no.
Yeah, but except for that, just because there's not a receipt doesn't mean it wasn't paid. I looked to see all the circumstances. to see if maybe it got paid. I think it's really stupid to let cash leave one hand without a receipt going into the other, because then you can't prove you gave the cash.
Right.
So that's really foolish, but it doesn't mean the cash wasn't given. So then what happens on the last day you had possession of the car?
It was March 3rd.
Uh-huh.
And I work at a restaurant, so I get out pretty late, and I just wanted to get some food after working. So there's a Fridays like right across the way from where I work. So I went there to get a bite to eat. My sister was actually with me. And we were there for maybe 25 minutes, half hour, got a quick bite, and we tried to leave. And when I went to go start the car wouldn't start.
This was on February what?
This was on March 3rd.
March 3rd, but see, March 3rd is way past the time that you're supposed to have completed your payments.
Right.
What reason do you have for not have completing your payment?
Because on February 22nd, like about a week after I got the car, I actually went and got it looked at by my mechanic. And he's told me that there was about $1,200 worth of
That's why you
repairs.
don't release a car that you're selling as is before the person pays, because they're going to find a reason not to pay.
Your Honor, the car was in excellent
Do
condition.
you hear me, though?
There was
It
no
is a
mechanical problem.
But you're not hearing me. It's a 2004. The person hasn't finished paying. They're going to find a reason not to pay. You understand?
Your
Hasn't
Honor,
finished paying.
Morgan is serving more Whoppers than Burger King, okay? These are all Whoppers. There was nothing wrong with that car.
Do
That
you
car was
have
in
a
excellent
receipt from the
condition.
mechanic who says there's $1,200 worth?
I did, and it was in the car when he took it back.
Oh, that's unfortunate for
It
you,
is.
isn't it? And then what happens?
And
Your
then-
car doesn't start, so you call the wife,
Exactly,
right?
yes.
And you say to her what?
That the car broke down and it was stuck at Fridays, and like I didn't know.
Well, did you ever say to her or to anybody else in that meantime, hey, I just took it to a mechanic who says there's $1,200 worth of work?
I brought that to the attention of Mr. Crawford, and I gave him.
When
that's why-
had you brought that to his attention?
I believe it was about the 24th. I would say February
what?
20 of February.
Okay, and did you text it, email it? What'd you do?
No, he actually came to my house, pounding on my door, looking for me. So that's when I brought it to his attention. I said, hey, now I have these repairs to take care of, and I have to somehow make, I don't make that much money, so I had the repairs to take care
Then
of.
save money and don't buy a car yet.
Exactly.
All right. Speaking of that, you have now discovered, apparently, you did a little police work after the fact, right? And you have discovered that she has a little problem with her license?
It was plain sight. She had a suspended license from a DWI.
Did you get a suspended license from a DWI?
If I can explain this to you.
Yeah, just answer my question.
I did, but I had a conditional license to drive to and from work at the time.
Yeah,
and I
well,
have
to and
proof of
from
that.
Fridays isn't to and from work, is it? So you had no permission to drive a car registered to you at the time that you were driving it, did you?
I guess not.
No, I guess not. No, whether you're drinking at Fridays or eating at Fridays makes no difference. And when you say it was in plain sight, what happens is she calls your wife, and then does your wife go over there to try to start the car?
So my wife was working the overnight. She called me in the morning. She said the car didn't start. She asked Morgan to leave the keys in her mailbox. She went and she picked up the keys from the mailbox. She went over to where the car was. It was in front of a bar near a mall where she worked. Went in, turned the key, car started right up. I went and I picked the car up from the bar restaurant that I was at. So I bring it down to my mechanic. I said, I need you to go through this car. The girl that's buying it, she keeps on bringing up these mechanical complaints. I said, I don't think they're valid, but could you go through the entire car? If you find any problems, fix them, and then, just call me back when you're done. He called me a short time later, and he said he found legal papers in the car, and he said, I got some bad news for you. I said, what? He said, Morgan doesn't have a driver's license. I said, oh. I said, why not? He said that he found papers in the car, legal papers, saying that her license was suspended on February 16th. He goes, I also found something in the glove box. I said, what did you find in the glove box? He said, I found a baggie full of dope. I said,
good heavens.
So what's the problem with this dude, an ex-cop, by the way, keeping title in his name when he gives her the car?
First of all, she didn't pay.
Didn't pay the whole thing for sure.
So, she's not supposed to do that. And he know he can get in trouble because he's an ex-cop. You can't do that. You had to give him the full title with her name on it. They both wrong.
Okay, I'll buy that. What do you say? What's the problem with this cop giving her the car and keeping the title in his name?
Well, he's still fully liable for the car.
Bingo! Going inside the courtroom.
I went down there to meet him, and the car was absolutely in disgusting condition. The car was like loaded with mud, cigarette butts, blunts, pot. It was just a disaster.
I don't understand why you didn't just return the car from the beginning instead of just keeping it until someone took it from you.
I was in desperate need for a car at the time, and they seemed like very nice people. They were willing to work.
How much nice? Would you have been this nice?
Right.
You're supposed to finish paying for it February 20th. What ends up happening is you keep the car, and by the way, was there anything wrong with the car?
The windshield wipers had to be fixed.
Were the tires bald?
No. They
Were
weren't
the
brand
tires
new.
original?
The tires were probably about half gone
Right.
through.
And again, do you have any proof of what you say a mechanic told you was going to be the problem?
Not from my mechanic in itself, but because
who else would it come from?
It was in the car. It was a really bad choice of mine to leave everything in the car.
Okay,
but
was there any such thing in the car?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, because it sounds like he went over it pretty thoroughly, including finding your pot. You had pot in the car?
Not that I knew of, no.
Not that you knew of.
Not that I knew of, no.
Not that you knew of.
No.
Just all over, blunts all over, not that you know of. Now you end up reselling the car to some lucky person. How much did you get for it?
$2,100.
Okay. So you sold it for $2,100, and the price with her had been what, $2,300?
It was supposed to be $2,350, but the receipt that she gave me was for $2,300. So.
Okay. So then that would mean that a car that, if everything had gone right, you were supposed to get $2,300 for, that you ended up getting instead $2,100 plus, I find it to be $1,530, but even if it was, you'd end up way ahead of the game by having $3,000 something. In the law, what we try to do is put people in the position that they were in before the breach. It's not supposed to be a bonanza. It's supposed to be the position you were in before the breach. Now, you feel like any surplus, I think that what you're telling me is, Judge, if there's any surplus to me, that's for my trouble that this woman was driving around my car with pot in it and this and that. And, she paid a deposit and didn't finish paying for it. And so she doesn't get her deposit back. That's your position.
Exactly, Your Honor.
And your position is, I ain't got no car, I ain't got no money, I want one of them.
It was basically a long.
It's your fault. All of it's your fault. So don't whine, because it is all your fault. You wanted something you couldn't afford. You were an idiot. You're the one who set the stage to hand 21-year-old girl that is not your child, that you didn't raise, who you don't know, a car in your name. You're nuts. Here's a person trying to help you and trying to give you a chance to have something, and instead of making good on your promise, you had to mess it up. I don't know if I want to do what we said I was going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I got money for blunts. I got money for Fridays, but I don't have any money to get. Everybody help me. It's all your fault. You set everything in motion. Do you remember how much you spent in the mechanic, or you honestly don't even remember?
The tires were approximately with the purchase and then the mounting and the balance, and they're probably about $140. And then I paid my mechanic. I gave him a little extra. It was a Sunday. I think I gave him about $160.
All right. I think you should give her part of the money back. I think you're entitled to part of the money. Certainly you're entitled to every penny of the money that you need to make you whole. The thing is that you did what's called in the law mitigating her damages, which you have an obligation to do. And when you sell the car for $2,100, your deficit is $200. Now, if I believe she gave $1,530, which I do, then that would mean that you owe her $1,330. But you don't owe her $1,330, because I believe you when you say that you put in $140 and then another $160. That leaves me with $1,030. But then there's this unquantifiable problem that I have here, where it's hard for me to put my finger on it. But, geez, why should she get every penny of that back when she's running around putting you at risk with your insurance, doesn't do what she's supposed to do? There's a breach involved in her not finishing paying and transferring it into her name. She continued to have you exposed on that insurance for the additional time from February 20th, which was the agreement, until March 4th. So I'm going to chisel a little away from that $1,030 figure, because I think that's highly inappropriate on your part. All right. And I am going to, you have no car, the car belongs to you without any claim or encumbrance, and I am going to order you to return $730, which would, I think, more than compensate you for the debacle that you've been through. So my verdict is for the plaintiff, not in the amount that she's asking for, but in the amount of $730. That's my judgment.
Well, this was kind of a tough day in court for both parties in this case. Mr. Crawford, the defendant, former police officer.
Yes.
What are you thinking of what you just went through?
It was rough.
Yeah.
And everything was settled. I think her verdict was fair.
Yeah, well, the judge said you did a lot of stupid things here. You know that.
Same thing with my wife. You see your daughter and every young girl.
All right. Well, I think you've learned something.
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you
Okay,
very much.
bye-bye.
You got to give her $730 back. Here comes Morgan. The judge lets you have it too, Morgan. What do you think?
So,
Your fault, the whole thing.
I guess that's what she says. I don't think this was really. I think he fabricated a lot of things. And I didn't think I had the right proof to show that otherwise because a lot of it was in the car.
But you didn't do a lot of what you were supposed to do.
I guess not. So.
You know, it's got pot in the car and everything. Not looking good for you. But you get $730 back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now what happens?
Now I'm just not looking to buy a car on Craigslist ever again or deal with anything like this again.
Ever again, huh?
Ever again.
Okay. Thank you very much. She's going to be walking for a long time, Harvey. What do you think?
Okay, I mean, there are certain things, very few things in life that are absolutely positively always true. This one is positively always true. When you sell a car, you immediately make sure the title transfers over to the other person. If you keep it even for a day after you give it back, that title is in your name and you are fully responsible, as she said, fully responsible for any accident that she gets in.